In this tutorial, we'll be learning how to create animation using the MotionTween. I've already got a file here that you should have downloaded called 03-2 motion_tween. It looks empty when you open it, but in fact there's some stuff in the library. So if you just click over to the library tab, you'll see what amounts to elements for the wheel. Now I've pre-created a movie clip already, and it's represented by this little gear icon. If I highlight it here, you can see it, and you can also see a preview of it up top here. We're just going to drag this movie clip into the stage area right now and just locate it sort of in the upper left corner like that. And I'm going to animate this, but just to be quick about it, a movie clip is a nested animation, so it's a timeline nested inside of an object, and we'll be getting into more depth on how to create and work with movie clips in another lesson. But for now, I just created one for you, and just understand that it's an object which has an animation working inside of itself, which happens to be this wheel spinning. So when you go test movie, you will actually see the wheel spinning, and I can quickly do that right now. Go Control, Test Movie. And I am in the latest version of Animate, which is 2020 right now. But this is one way to do it, test. And you can just see it spinning. It's a little bit awkward here because of my playback, but you can see that there's a spinning wheel inside of this object. Okay, so let's just talk about the tweens a bit. The MotionTween is specifically designed to only work on symbols. The movie clip happens to be one of the three symbol types. There's also the button symbol and then the graphic symbol, and we usually create those by going up to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and you would see your selections right there. I'm not going to convert this. It's already a symbol. If I highlight it, I can tell. If I go to Properties, and I can see Instance of Wheel, and I can see the graphic representing symbol. Now I'm in the latest version, so it does have these 4 tabs at the top. The previous version doesn't have these, but otherwise things are quite similar over here in the properties. Okay, so what I want to do here is I just want to create a simple motion tween, which basically allows me to create motion between keyframes. But it's a self-contained object on the timeline. So I'm in layer 1 right now. I'm just going to right click on this first keyframe. And here's where I can create a motion tween. And when I create it, it's going to automatically span out to 1 second's worth, which is 24 frames in this case. And my playhead also moves to the end. Now a nice feature is if I make a change with the wheel on the stage, it will generate a new keyframe to record that. I don't have to expressly hit F6, for example, to create a new keyframe. I could do that, but I don't actually have to, as long as the playhead is over the desired frame that I want the new keyframe to appear in. Let me just demonstrate that. I'm just going to move this to the bottom of the page here. And actually I'll hold my shift key down to constrain it. And you might have noticed a new diamond has appeared there representing a keyframe inside of the span. You'll also notice that a motion guide has appeared on the stage. So if I scrub my playhead, I can actually see that that's animating. Okay, so that's the basics of creating a motion using the MotionTween. Now there's a lot more to it, but that's the essential feature right there. I can go in here, let's say in the middle. I could hit F6, or I don't even have to hit F6, but F6 is the shortcut for creating a keyframe. I could simply grab the wheel here, I believe, and move it out. And you can see what it did there. It actually moved it and generated a new keyframe. So now I've got it going with 3 keyframes. So it changes direction here and here. Let me undo that for a second though, and show you another feature that you can manipulate the line with. And I'm just going to go back to frame 1 here. Okay. First of all, you can select it, and you see it went a little bit thicker, and that allows me to move the whole animation. And it doesn't change sort of the relative motion within that span. Okay, so I can move the whole thing around. Now another feature is I'm going to click away here for a second, which is deselecting. And I'm just going to select one of the dots. And you see how it makes a curved line there? I can actually pull out a curve, and I can actually distort that any way I want. So let's say I want to do this sort of Nike curve here. There we go. And if I drag my playhead and scrub it, you can see that that's following that line. Now some other features I can do here with the line is if I use my subselection tool, which is the little white tool, I can actually go in here and click on the line, and if I click on the end here, I can actually see handles, and I can manipulate it that way too, similar to how we worked with the line work from a pen tool. So that's another way of doing it. And if I was to generate another keyframe, it would allow me to have extra handles. So for example, if I went here and go F6 on the keyboard, and then I'll move my playhead back, I believe I can click on that keyframe, and now I have handles there as well. All right, so you can get very tightly controlled if you want to get into it, but that's how we can manipulate what's called the motion path. Okay, and if I want to preview it, the shortcut on the keyboard, I'm on a Mac here, so it would be Command Return. On the PC, sorry, it would be Control Return. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut. There's also this nice little Go button here, Test Movie, on the newest version of Animate. Okay, so I'm hitting my keyboard shortcut. It generates it. And you can just see it, it loops forever and ever. And that's the default of how the timeline works in Adobe Animate. So I'm just going to close that now. But that's a little preview. That's how you actually see the nested animations working as well, because when you're scrubbing, you don't see the wheel spinning. And you can also hit return actually to play it back, but you don't see the nested animation manifest itself. So if you want to see everything animate, you do have to go play movie. Okay, so I'm going to undo some of this stuff here and get back to a straight line. Okay, so I'm just hitting Command Z here on the Mac. It would be Control Z on the PC. Okay, I will do a save as right now as well. I'm just going to save it to my desktop because I don't want to overwrite this original file. So I'm going to just go last name underscore MotionTween empty. Okay, and hit save. So now I've created a brand new file out of that. Now, let's say I wanted to actually reverse that motion. You can see here, let's say I want to do like a bouncing ball thing. So it's going down and then it goes back up again. I can duplicate this selection here. But you see when I click it, actually let me show you a setting here. This happens to be a span of a MotionTween. And in the latest version, it does appear as this golden color. I did do a preset, and I'm going to show you right now in the timeline. Over here on the far right, this is what's called a hamburger. If you open up the hamburger, there's a thing called span-based selection. I think by default it's off. So let me show you how it works when it's off. You see how it only selects a single frame? If I want to select the whole span, I can hold my shift key down, and then it selects the whole span. Another way for that to happen, I'm going to deselect by clicking away here, is if you actually have the default setting, span-based selection, then when you click anywhere within the span, it does select the whole span. Now if I want to select a single frame when it's on that setting, I hit the Command key on the Mac or the Control key on the PC. Okay, so it's up to you which way you like to work. So I like to default now with span-based. So when I make a single click, it selects the whole span. If I want to select a single frame, it's Command click on the Mac or Control click on the PC. So when that feature is on, it's sort of the opposite keyboard features. Okay, span-based selection. So I'm going to leave mine on. By default, I believe it's off. Okay, so again, I do want to select the whole span. That's what I was driving at the beginning. And I want to duplicate it. There's a couple of ways I could do that too. I could go right click, copy frames, and then go to the next available empty frame and right click, paste frames. That totally works, as you can see. Let me undo that for a second and show you a second method, which again, select the whole span. On the Mac, it's Option. On the PC, it's Alt click and drag. I find that's a little quicker, but whatever you want to use, they both work equally well. Okay, so here we are. I duplicated it, I dragged it so that now we have two instances basically of that MotionTween. But I want it to go in reverse here on the second half. So I'm going to select that tween. Now I did find, I think it's a bug in this latest version, but I'm going to show you how we can work with this anyway. I want to reverse the keyframes. Right click. Now actually it's out of the screen here right now, so I'm going to click away and drag this way up high so that you'll be able to see my right click screen here. So right click. Oh, it's still below. Sorry about that. It's just that my screen capture software is cutting off, so ignore the tiny picture at the top for a second. Right click. There we go. I wanted to access these features down here. Now when I right click on that second span, which is a MotionTween, I would have expected reverse keyframes to be available. For some reason it is not. Only in this latest updated version. I can actually show you in the previous version working, but here's the workaround for now. We only have 2 keyframes, so I'm simply going to go to motion path. This is another option and it will work in this case. Reverse path. Okay, now let me just get my screen back here. Oh, I tore that away by accident. Now I'm going to have to re-nest it. There we go. All right. So now it should be the reverse. And it is. It's like the bouncing ball, if you will. Okay. But I do want to show you on the other version. I'm going to flip over to Animate here. 2019. I'm going to do that same thing. Option click on the Mac. Alt click on the PC. And if I, again, make my window very, very tiny, you'll be able to see my right click here. Reverse keyframes. This is what I would expect. I trust it's a little bug in this latest release. I've looked all around and there is no documentation on it. So we have a workaround for those of you who are working in the 2020 version. If you're working in the version that's on the college currently, and this is fall 2020 right now, this will be available to you as an option, and I would say use that, reverse keyframes. Now it seems like it does the exact same thing, but if I had more than one keyframe in there, then you would notice that it doesn't exactly work the same. Okay, so 2019 version, no issue with reverse keyframes. Let me go back though. I will continue to work in the 2020 version here. We had to resort to reverse motion. Okay. Ooh, that was a lot, eh? Hopefully this is addressed in the next micro release of Adobe Animate. But for now, this is the workaround. And maybe it doesn't need to be a workaround. It could be part of your process again when you're only using 2 keyframes. Now I've got another powerful feature I want to share with you as well here. Let's say I want to make a custom line, if you will. I want this wheel to follow a specific line on the path. Let's say I have a little hill in the background and I want it to follow the top of the hill. Let me demonstrate how we can do that. I'm going to create a new layer. I'll quickly draw a little hill, if you will. I'll just name it hill. And I'll actually drag it to the bottom. Whoops, I hit the return key by accident there. I'll just drag the hill to the bottom. And I'll go back to frame 1. So I actually do have this animation going twice. I'm just going to use the first one, the first half. So let me just go into the first frame of the hill, and I'll go with my pen tool. And I've got a green fill with a black stroke, so let's just start here, and I'll just make this sort of mildly curved hill that the wheel is going to follow. And I'll go to the edge of the page, and I'm going to actually close this path here. So I'm going to go down here and click with my shift key, sort of create a box, if you will, and then close that. And then I'll go with my bucket tool and I'll just fill that. Okay, so let's say that's my ground and this is the top of the hill. I'm going to go back with my selection tool. Now this does have to be on a separate layer, by the way. You can't combine it on the layer with the MotionTween. It has to be its own separate layer. Having said that, let me go in and select the top of the hill, You see when I selected it, it just selected that line. Now if for some reason it only selects part of it, you can hold your shift key down and keep adding to the selection, if you will. Like if I go down the side here with my shift key, you can see how it adds to it. I'm going to click away to deselect and reselect that top line. So this is what I want to do. I want to take this wheel and I want it to hug the exact curve of that line and to run along where that line happens to be. So I'll start by highlighting it, then I'm going to copy the line, and then I'll highlight the wheel with the motion guide. So I'll click on it on the stage, and you see this guide, just click on the line, so it's highlighted, and you're basically replacing it. So I'm going to replace it with what's called paste in place, which means it will take this line and paste it on the wheel, and it will actually locate the wheel to the same location to where the line was. So edit, paste in place. And lo and behold, there it is. There's the new line. It's a motion guide, but it's actually derived from that line directly below. And if I scrub through, you can see how it's following the line. Now this is the second half, so it's only working on the first half of the animation. But there you go. That's how you can create a custom line, and not only create a custom line, but actually designate it to go at a specified area along a specified path, if you will. Okay, so that's how we will create a custom motion line in our actual assignment that's following up on this video. So one more thing I want to share with you on this tutorial is how to copy and paste frame properties. So let's just say I'm going to go down to frame 25 here, and I'm going to highlight this frame, this keyframe on layer 1. So I'm going to hit Command, select, and I'll right click it. So I'm actually going to move this up again so that you can see my right click menu. So I'm going to right click this keyframe that I currently have selected, and you can see down here I have these copy, paste properties, paste properties special. I'm going to start by copying the properties of that frame in that particular layer. So it happens to be the location of the wheel, and it has a few other properties associated with it, which I'll get to here in a second. So let's say I want to go down the road here. I'll go to frame 35. I'm going to select the frame again, Command key down on the Mac, Control key down on the PC, and I've selected frame 35. I'm going to hit F6 on the keyboard, and that creates a keyframe. And I want to paste the properties there, so I'm just going to make this small again, and right click. I'm going to go to Paste Properties Special and show you what your options are. Paste Properties would give you all of the selected options, but with Paste Properties Special, you can pick and choose. So you have the position, the location. If it's rotated, it will assume the same rotation. If it was scaled, it will assume the same scale. If it was skewed, it will assume the same skew, and when applicable, color effects and filters as well. So you can actually just pick and choose from these. So let me click cancel for a second here. And I'm going to change something. I'm just going to go back to this frame, and I'll go in and select the wheel right here, and I'm going to go to my free transform tool and just squish it, just for demonstration's sake. Go back to my selection tool. I'm going to recopy that frame. So again, so you can see it here. Right click, copy properties. Okay, now I'm going to go over here to frame 35 and Command click on that frame. Right click, paste properties special, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples here. So I'll just say position only, and I click OK, and you see how it assumed that original position. Let me undo that. Command Z on the keyboard, and I'll right click again, paste property special. Let's say scale, because that squishing is a scale, but we won't change the position. So I should expect it to get squished but stay where it is on the page. And there we go. So you can see how you can kind of pick and choose some of those properties and paste them here and there. If you need to get the exact same settings, that's a nice quick way to do it. You can also do it manually, of course, in your properties when you highlight the appropriate item on the stage. But this is a lot quicker for sure. So again, right click here, paste property special. I can go position. Really, these two are the only ones that apply in this case. So if I go position and scale, it will appear at the bottom as well as squished. There we go. Okay, so that's how you can copy and paste frame properties as well from one location on the timeline to another. And I think that wraps it up for how to animate using the MotionTween. It's all the big steps contained inside of this video. So apply these techniques on the assignment that you will see in the next video.